Hello everyone, this is your host, Gemma Putty, bringing vibrant living conversations from North Idaho and across this region. I'm so excited to chat with entrepreneurs, creatives, and believers as we journey together to connect more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. So today I am talking with Matt and Krystle of MaK Bread. I vividly remember first discovering their bread at the Kootenai Farmers Market because it's these delicious, crunchy sourdough bowls. And when I first started buying it, the lines were super short and I could hop in and buy as much bread as I wanted to. And then progressively throughout the season, people discovered you, yay. But the lines got longer and longer and longer, and then the bread was selling out. So I love those stories because everyone has realized what an amazing bread they have. And I love the fact that it's sourdough too, because bread can be so demonized on so many levels. So today I get to talk to the two of them about the art of bread making and just the joys of sourdough specifically. So thank you, Matt and Krystle, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. So you started in 2018, is that right?
We did, so. Yep. This is going to be our 4th farmers market season coming up, which is crazy, which is hard to believe. Time flies while you're having fun.
I'm working hard.
We're really busy.
So will you tell us a little bit about your story to even getting into bread making and then starting the farmers market and just creating MaK Bread in general?
Yeah, I feel like the concept was a little bit twofold. So for me, I have always kind of had this dream of opening up kind of a brick and mortar space, a deli type environment, casual kind of order at the counter, sandwiches, really great food. And so that has been something that has been probably a dream of mine since college. And then with Matt, I feel like we've talked about starting a sandwich shop type deli. And he had become really interested in making bread, and it just kind of evolved in bread being the platform, or even I would say the launch pad of us kind of starting to dip our toes into, potentially opening up this space, because it can be, I think, really overwhelming, right?
Yeah. We neither one of us, we both thought that would be very cool. We could see the end result of working in a little cafes type spot or something like that, but kind of overwhelming looking at all of the things that you had to do to get there. Neither one of us, we had worked in restaurants, but we're not super knowledgeable how to run a restaurant or how to even run a business. So the bread just started because it was okay, we'll have bread, you need bread for sandwiches and stuff like that. So it was just something that seemed so simple, and then we kind of used that to kind of grow, and kind of with the end goal of someday being knowledgeable at how to run a business, and then also some idea of the restaurant industry and all that sort of good stuff. So, yeah.
How did you start with the bread piece? How you whittled it down to okay, step 1, which I totally get it. We were saying before we started this podcast, step 1, just start doing it and figuring out right? But how did you settle on bread, and then specifically sourdough?
I think it was bread because it was sandwiches, and then also Krystle mentioned, I had been baking just a little on the side, and through my brother got into it, and some of my friends got into it, and so something that I was trying out. I chose sourdough in particular just because I thought it was kind of, initially it was the challenge of it. And then, just as we were baking and stuff, and trying different breads, and, how we chose to do pretty much exclusively sourdough first was just the way it tasted, I think. And, with being sourdough, and a lot of times sourdough is especially with a slow fermentation, you can kind of eke out a lot of flavors that you wouldn't normally get with a really quick bread that's made with commercial yeast and stuff. So that's how it kind of got started. And, you know, it was definitely a process of like trying and failing and you know, kind of, there was, I think, kind of became like an addiction in that, so in some ways, just because it was like, okay, we can tweak this one little thing, or like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we added this to the bread or something like that. And then, yeah, it just kind of went from there.
So when did you start that? Like, how long do you mess around with bread before you're like, all right, we're ready. Let's like get commercial. Let's take this to a farmer's market. Let's do mass scale.
I think I was probably baking just, you know, after work and stuff, for maybe a year or two, maybe 2 years.
I feel like it was longer, like 2 to 3 years, I think,
Yeah.
because it was really fun kind of seeing like Matt get really excited and interested and really involved in the process. And he's someone who just researches anything and everything. I honestly like envy just having, sorry, our dog, that's Lucy, UPS is here. But, you know, I'm always really impressed and inspired by the way that Matt is able to like look at a project and kind of dissect it and really like just jump in 100%. And so I feel like it was at least 2 years.
I think so. Yeah. And it was, I mean, it was, like I said, it was, you know, we were both working at the time. And so it was, you know, coming home from work and spending, you know, 4 or 5 hours with the dough, and then waking up before the next day. And it was just kind of like, you know, very much, even at that point, a labor of love. And just kind of in the back of our mind, kind of like, okay, how do we free up more time to like actually devote, you know, maybe the reason why the bread isn't exactly coming out how I want it, maybe it's because I'm not devoting enough time. You know, I have this like work thing that I have to do during the day. Like, what if I could devote more time to this? Like how, you know, what could we do with that? And so, yeah, so that, I think that was definitely a part of it too.
It was really fun. Just like we would have friends over and we would, you know, host like wine and cheese nights, and we'd like casually integrate the bread, and you know, and of course, and then it was like, okay, are we biased? Are our friends just being polite? And I remember there was one Thanksgiving when we were in Seattle, we went to like a friendsgiving event, and Matt baked a bunch of bread, and we just kind of didn't say anything, and I remember people were commenting on it, and that was like it was just really exciting to see, you know what I mean? It was kind of exciting almost to have that like blind taste test, if you will. Because
like, yeah, I'm glad you like the cheese, but what do you think about the bread?
Come on.
Focus more on the bread. You're not talking about the bread enough. Yeah.
I love
it. It is. It's a leap, you know. It's a leap to go from doing something, I'm sure, as like a hobby to kind of putting yourself out there, right? Like you're putting it's an art, and you know, in the same way that people look to, you know, put out their own music or put out their own paintings or anything like that. There's kind of a level, I'm sure, of like vulnerability that comes with that too. So
no, I understand that on many levels for sure. I'm curious, are you from North Idaho? And what were your jobs before? I'm just fascinated. Like where did this all start before you dove into MaK?
So I was born in Spokane a while ago, and then I came back to go to college in Spokane.
Okay.
And then, you know, when I was living there, Coeur d'Alene was always like, you know, escape on a sunny weekend and, you know, go out to the restaurants here, spend the day at the lake. And then Krystle and I met we were both teaching English in South Korea, actually. And when we got back, we both finished around the same time. I convinced her to move to Seattle, or to give Seattle a try, and then eventually Seattle convinced her to. I think we stayed there for maybe 5 years. Yeah, but Coeur d'Alene was kind of always in the back of our mind. We have some family here. So we would still come out, you know, in the summer, that same thing. And yeah, so it was kind of in the back of our mind of like, if we're, you know, if the city is getting a little crazy, you know, like there's always that kind of, Coeur d'Alene was always the escape. And so,
It's such a beautiful place
Yeah.
too. I mean, I think Matt mentioned this, but you know, his family is here. He has a lot of family here, and we didn't have any family in Seattle. And you know, it was just kind of fun for us to be able to kind of envision our life here. And it's such a special, beautiful, wonderful place. And so we've been here 3 years. That's Jamie. We've got Lucy weighing in, and now Jamie from Water weighing in.
The whole family's involved.
Yeah. No, that's interesting though, because I don't know if I said this already, but I'm originally from England, and I just keep getting progressively like further and further west. I met my husband in Salt Lake, and him and I were there for a decade, you know, doing the city thing. When you're a little younger too, it's like more glamorous, and you've got time to just be out and having drinks and stuff, right?
Yeah,
and then you start thinking about like the next chapter of life. And my husband's from Coeur d'Alene too, so we've been coming up here and visiting, and suddenly you're like, wait a second, I don't actually want to leave. And then maybe if we have a kid at some point, like, where do I want to raise them, and where's my family, and where's less traffic? And so I've been up here 4 years too, and it's nice. It feels like home, and then you do it, and it's like, yeah, perfect, right?
Definitely, yeah.
I love that.
It was very, very easy to get pulled into the community here for sure. From, you know, very, very early on. Which was a big reason why we're so happy living here.
Yeah, and that's such a special part of this area too. Is just, I think, because it is, you know, a smaller area, like a smaller town compared to like a bigger city, there is this incredible community of support, and you know, you meet other like-minded businesses and other people with similar dreams, and being able to just kind of like work together to lift each other up and to support each other. You know, even you saying like, oh, weren't you at the Poppy James event on Sunday? And it's just, I kind of love that close-knit, you know, feel. So
well, and I think there's still like so much change that we get to be part of. Like, I think in cities there is, but you can get even more overwhelmed with like, there's already some bread, and there's already
100%.
Tons of this. Whereas here, I mean, I'm all for it. Like, I want the French style, like, bakery. Come in, buy a loaf of bread, sit, have a coffee in the sun or whatever, right? And yeah, I think that there's still so many opportunities for that here. So
absolutely. Definitely agree.
So where do you make your bread, and what is a typical day in the bakery like for you guys? Like, I have no idea. And how big is your team? Because I see like 4 of you, but I'm like, for making this bread over and over and over again?
Yeah. Well, in the summer, yes. So we're lucky enough to have our own production space now, which is out in Rathdrum, actually. It's not we don't have a brick and mortar or anything or any place to sell it, but we do have our own space that, you know, we have our own equipment and all of that sort of stuff. In that we've been there, I think this is our 2nd year of being there. Before doing bread, you are actually able to just do it out of your house. Under some cottage food laws. So you could do it out of your house, and farmers market is a great way of you know, a great avenue to sell that and everything, which was another thing of us just starting with bread, is because there were those opportunities. You know, we didn't have to do everything all at once. We could literally just, you know, apply for a few inexpensive or free licenses and do, you know, produce out of, you know, bake a couple of loaves out of our house and show up, and if people, you know, wanted to buy them, then now all of a sudden we're a bread business. You know, it was like this very, very low barriers of entry. But anyway, yeah, so it started off just me and Krystle. Krystle does have a full-time job and is also a full-time mom. So since
you're a full-time dad,
so Krystle was helping out, you know, so it was me and her to start. We've had various family members that will come, you know, anytime that they come and visit us, they'll be in the bakery helping out. So my brother, right now, my brother moved up in the middle of the farmers market season last year. And so he's working with us full time. So it's right now it's just down to me and him. We're kind of in our slower season.
Right.
Yeah, but another thing that he brings to the table is he moved up here from Phoenix, which is where we did a bunch of our growing up, and he has a big restaurant background. So kind of like as we kind of start piecing everything together, you know, it's he's in the bakery with us, and he definitely brings a lot of knowledge from a lot of experience and stuff. So
He's really fun.
yeah, so that's very fun too. So but yeah, our team grows to there'll probably be like 3 or 4 of us, and probably, you know, Krystle and stuff too. So probably 4 or 5. But in the market season, which starts in May, and then yeah, it's just a lot of days of shaping different doughs, and you know, it's a lot of, the farmers markets are great, but there's a lot of running around, and you know, the days definitely fill up quickly. So
what time does the day start? Like how early? And are you making bread like daily, or do you kind of like prep? Like, do you do like a bunch on like, I don't know, earlier in the week, and it gets you through the week? How does that work?
So with the sourdough that we do, we try to slow everything down, which is, you know, there's a lot of health aspects that people talk about, and then also it's kind of more complex flavor and everything. And so everything for us spends at least 1 night in the refrigerator. So like kind of working back from, so if we have a Saturday market, we're baking everything day of before the market. And so that is the earliest of the mornings for sure. And then the Friday would be mixing all the dough and getting everything ready. And then the Thursday might be like prepping for that mix, and we mix our starters and you know, any of the mix-ins that we have to get together and stuff. And then working back from that, our other market is on Wednesday. So you know, our days fill up quick. You know, it's kind of like a Monday through Saturday, and Sundays we try our hardest to get out of bed and go enjoy the sun.
Go to the lake.
Yeah, but sometimes
enjoy this beautiful area we live in.
Sometimes we have to force ourselves.
And Matt says early, but like, I mean, sometimes he'll leave at midnight. Sometimes it's one of those things where we don't have anything, like we don't have a Friday night anymore, because, you know, he'll try to go to bed at 6 p.m. and wake up and start at midnight or start at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
and then you know, so that we can have fresh bread at the farmers market by 9.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing, and you're so humble about it. This is what we're doing, and I love it. Will you talk about some of your recipes, because you have so many different kinds of grains and so many different flavors. The one that like really blows my mind is the potato one, like how light that is.
Oh yeah.
I just associate potatoes with starchy, and I usually avoid them. And then your team convinced me to try it, and I'm like, this bread is like a staple.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, probably we started off with, well, the first market we brought 3 different loaves to, and they're all kind of like just the country loaves, or like the French style, maybe like San Francisco style country loaves. And that was all basically more or less the same dough. You know, so for, you know, one of the ones we might use a little bit more whole wheat to get that flavor. The second bread that we brought had sesame seeds in it, and then the third one was the potato. And yeah, so I think it's easy to conceptualize, because for us it's kind of like it's all gonna the process is the same, but we can kind of like, after we feel like we have a dough ready, that we can feel like we can kind of like play around with it, add some stuff. So yeah, the potato, we took away a lot of the whole grain. So the starter we use is whole grain, but the rest of the flour is sifted. And then yeah, added potatoes, which, you know, kind of focuses more on the potatoy flavor too, and you know, is definitely a lighter loaf. So yeah, and then we kind of go from there. We have a few, I would say, like kind of like not master doughs, but we have a few, like, so we'll have like a rye dough, and then we can do rye things with that. Or we started doing baguettes last year, and that's kind of a separate dough. And then once we have that, we can do things, you know, like ciabattas or, you know, even bagels. We've started kind of experimenting with bagels now, and it's kind of a similar dough. So yeah, it keeps things interesting for us, honestly, too. I feel like sometimes we have way too many, you know, way too many options and way too, you know, it's like kind of want to simplify it. But, you know, especially in the summer, you know, we're in the bakery a lot, and it's helpful for us to kind of like mix it up a little bit and, you know, be thinking about what else we can do and stuff like that.
I love that. Well, you think, I mean, just bread around the world is a staple, period, right? It's been around forever and ever and ever. So
Yeah.
having like the cultural, just the historic,
Yeah.
there's so many different kinds of bread that I'm kind of the same too, where I'm like, I get bored. Like, what else is there? So what inspires you? For me, I know I love the New York Times, Great British Bake Off. I don't know if you're a fan, but like, there's things like that when I'm like, okay, I'm cooking healthy meals for my family or whatever, like these are my go-to inspirations for flavors. Do you have go-tos, or are you kind of just, what's your inspiration?
Yeah, I think kind of, well, definitely along the line that you're going with that too, of like, you know, just all of the traditions from all over the place, you know. You know, the baking community is very very open, and there's a lot of, you know, shared knowledge, and I think the thing is you know, someone will tell you exactly their process because they know that at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot easier for you to just buy the loaf from them than to go home and start your 12-hour starter and then wake up at 2 a.m. and then get that, you know. So no, yeah, I mean, we're definitely inspired by the other bakeries and restaurants, you know, that are, you know, just being creative and, you know, really honestly doing what they want to do, and you can see that.
Something I was just going to add is just, I think Matt and I have been really lucky to be able to have traveled a lot together. And I think you mentioned earlier, you know, we met teaching abroad in South Korea. So we kind of, you know, met with this, where we both had this wanderlust. And so anytime that we go to any city, whether it's, you know, here, whether it's a 2-hour drive away or we're, you know, taking a plane somewhere, we always kind of like to eat and drink our way through the city, right? Like that's such a fun, exciting part of experiencing a new area. So I feel like we get a lot of inspiration, you know, when we go to these different bakeries, these different delis, even just different food spots, and you can't help but just be inspired and excited to kind of take that in and you know, take that back, right? Like,
totally, yeah.
So I think that there's a lot there
too. Like going to some place and you try this bread and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? And then coming back and like trying to, you know, figure out how to do it and make that a part of what we do and everything. And yeah, it's never ending. I think that'll keep us busy for a long time. Inspiration. Yeah.
So can you have a favorite bread, period, like with all your travels, and is there like your go-to?
It's so hard to choose, but I do have a favorite bread. So I will, because people will ask us this at the market all the time. And my favorite is probably our wild sesame. And I love the flavor of it. I think, you know, it's got a little bit of a unique flavor to it, but also there's a little bit of like a sentimental story behind it, and that the wild sesame, we use 2 types of sesame, and we use a Korean sesame. And so again, that's where Matt and I met, and it has this kind of like nostalgic flavor, and you know, it's just kind of part of our story. So on both sides, one, because I love the flavor of it, but also because, you know, we met.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Long way to follow.
No, sorry.
So yours is the sesame too, Matt?
You should have gone first.
no, really. Do you have a different one though?
Well, I kind of talked about like how so for us, one of the loaves we make is that we call the Country Blonde is just flour, water, salt, and one of the ones that we're doing originally. And to me, that's so simple. There's nothing. It's not hiding behind some deliciousness in there or something like that. So that I think gets the most attention in the bakery. Everyone's always kind of like, if the Country Blonde dough is doing well, then we can assume everything else is doing well. And it gets the most tweaking, and we'll tweak this bread and then that will trickle down into all the other breads. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll always make that one. I think that's
the classic. Yeah. I feel like if someone has never tried our bread before, don't you always recommend the Country Blonde just because it's like the most versatile too.
Yeah, basically most of our other breads are the Country Blonde with some
sweet here or there. So is bread a staple in your house, or do you get sick of it?
Krystle and I were just talking about this because I feel like we do make a lot of loaves, but there's so many times where I'll come home and Krystle's like, "Hey, did you grab any bread?" And I'll be like, "Oh,
can you bring me some bread?"
Forgot. So I feel like we do eat a lot, but maybe not as much as we want to, honestly.
Because we're all just buying it so fast.
So it is definitely a staple. I mean, one thing that I've started doing, because I will ask Matt, like, "Hey, can you bring me like a loaf home from the days of his baking?" And sometimes we can, and sometimes it's just a crazy day. So I've started slicing it and freezing it, and it actually that works really well too.
Yeah, we hopefully always have some emergency bread in the freezer.
Yeah, I like that. I agree. You need that. Sometimes there's like a diagram, like I just need a piece of toast right now. So that's funny. Where was I going with that? Oh, health benefits. So gluten, sourdough, I'm sure you probably hear, so sourdough is healthy bread, right? Or like, how are people asking you it, and how do you address, what are the health benefits of sourdough, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I mean,
yeah, it's definitely, to your point, it's definitely a question we get a lot at the farmers market, and we always want to be very transparent and just make sure that we're really being genuine in how we respond to this, because at the end of the day, it's like there are kind of different, I think everyone has kind of like a different not perception, but just everyone kind of processes different things in their body differently, so we certainly don't want to make any claims. And but for us, we just talk about the fermentation process first and foremost, and how it, obviously with anything fermented, it breaks down maybe some of those harsher, ingredients. And so a lot of people will actually tell us, well, I'm able to digest this a lot easier, or I'm gluten sensitive, but I can eat sourdough. And so again, we don't promise you like, oh, well, if you buy our bread, and you have a gluten sensitivity, you'll be fine. But at the same time, beyond just the flavor and the taste, we obviously, all of our loaves have that naturally fermented sourdough starter. And so we just kind of let people be the judge for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest thing, is someone coming back, after talking with us and saying like, hey, that was great. And then also, I don't normally eat bread, and that was great. I had the sandwich that I haven't had in a while, or something like that. It's just cool, because it's cool to have kind of that feedback of just we choose to do something a certain way, and there's a lot of time it sometimes feels like a very significant choice, especially with those late nights and early mornings and everything. But it's so cool to get that feedback of someone who appreciates that, kind of on multiple levels and everything. So
yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's so key with everything, right? People try to come to me like, what should I eat? And I'm like, what does your body respond well to? You're the one that needs to listen to your gut and your skin. What's your skin telling you after you eat this? And I mean, fermented everything helps.
Yeah.
That's for sure, right? And everything too is in moderation. Like, are you living off of more than just bread? Well,
Yeah, right.
that's part of the problem or the benefit or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
But that's kind of a good segue even into life balance with you're just, saying you guys work a lot, like you're entrepreneurs, you're new parents. How old is Jamie?
Jamie just turned 8 months on April 12th. She was born August 12th, which is crazy to me because I felt like I was pregnant forever. And just these first months with her, the fact that she's going to be 1 in August is just like, yeah, it blows my mind. So they say time is a thief. I'm like, oh, I think I get that now.
Right. And it feels like my little boy's, I think I said 20 months, and I feel like I was there yesterday, and I feel so cliche. I'm like, I'm pretty sure my parents told me this, right? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And now that you have your own kid, you're like, oh, don't get any bigger.
I know. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun with her right now, just because I feel like she's really starting to like have her little personality. And she's like giggling a lot. She's like crying right now. She's so happy. I know. But we definitely have a lot on our plate, and I think we just kind of work together to figure out how to support each other, and and obviously support Jamie, and it's just kind of problem solving and kind of being flexible and making things work, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just, we know that we both want to spend as much time with Jamie, as possible, and to learn how to become, parents and all of that sort of stuff. And, it's an agreement from both of us that, all this, we can pursue all this other stuff too. It's, I was thinking about this morning. I was in the bakery, and just all that took. It was an early morning because Krystle had to go online at 7. I had to try to get a lot of that done. So, it's leaving Krystle with the baby early in the morning and having her take care of that, having her take care of the baby, and then my mom was over to help watch the baby once Krystle had to go online, and then my brother stayed late at the bakery to help finish up because I had to get back. And it's definitely all of us kind of deciding together that that this is still something that we want to do. So
yeah.
That saying, like, it's a village, like, really rings true, because even just like our family and friends and everyone, is helping us navigate it, which is so appreciated, obviously, and we're just so grateful for the support.
Yeah, no, it solidifies what you love in life, right? You're like, okay, everything else can fall away. Like, let's focus on what's really important to us.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I love that. So that being said, I mean, you've made so many changes to MaK even just in the last couple of years, right? From like your options to, I mean, I could have bought bread every week all winter long, and you've partnered with different local businesses.
Yeah.
What's your vision for MaK moving forward? I mean, we're coming into another farmers market season. What are you excited about, and what's kind of your vision for the next steps?
Yeah, I think a cool thing is that, a lot of starting this, it was kind of the question of like, is this something that we want to do?
Can we do it?
Can we do it? Yeah, and then are we just going to continue to have fun doing it? Is it going to continue to challenge us? Are we going to continue to feel like, we have something that we're working towards, all of that sort of good stuff? I think a cool thing is that those conversations that Krystle first had when she was mentioning, like, hey, I think someday it would be very cool to have a cafe or a sandwich spot in particular. I think it's cool that is, we're only 3 years in, but that's still like the kind of the guiding light for us. And that's something that we honestly feel like we're getting close to. I mentioned my brother coming up, that's another step, and, hiring our first employees. And now I feel like we can do that. And just all of those things. I still feel like that initial thing that we were going for, I still feel like that's something that we still really want to do.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, so that's the next step. And there probably is many steps, you know, to get there, but, you know, definitely, you know, I mentioned we have our own production space, definitely having our own, you know, kind of retail space and stuff like that. Definitely be big, and yeah.
And I think it's important, sorry, thank you. I think it's important to mention too that, like, you know, we would not have even had the opportunity to even conceptualize or even like really think about this without the farmers market giving us a space and platform to grow this business, and just the amount of support we've had from not only, you know, the attendees of the farmers market every Saturday and Wednesday, but truly like the farmers market itself, right? Like they really have given us this opportunity to grow our business. And so I think we're very appreciative and grateful for that. And we hope that that's something that we can continue to also grow, and, you know, kind of figuring out what the evolution of that looks like in that respect too, because it's a very important part of, you know, our brand, right? Or our business. Like, we would not be able to do what we do if it wasn't for the farmers market.
Yeah, amazing platform.
And obviously there's obviously a lot of other businesses that have come into your point, like, that have really supported us too, which has just been amazing. But yeah, I think like we're gearing up for a busy season, and it's always just really re-energized. It's, you know, it's exciting and it's busy and it's hectic, and it just feels like we're like drinking out of a fire hose, but it's awesome.
I'm ready to go though. I'm ready for a busy season.
So is Jamie, apparently.
She's ready to go. So I guess that just leads us into, how do people find you? You know, moving into farmers market season, obviously you're at Kootenai County Farmers Market, which is Saturdays from 8 to 1 and 9 to 1, right?
9 to 1 at the 9 to 1:30 actually, at Prairie and 95 in Hayden, every Saturday, and then every Wednesday from 4 to 7 p.m. At 5th and Sherman downtown, which is, it's a lot of fun too. I'm so excited for the farmers market to start back up. It's such a good time. And then outside of that, we have been able to have our bread offered at some other local businesses. So Matt, you could probably talk through everything. I know Wednesdays we consistently deliver to Doma Coffee.
Yeah, I feel like we've tried everything on in each of our off seasons, but now we do have whole loaves that we sell Wednesday at Doma Coffee, and also Culinary Stone, and then Thursday back at Culinary Stone, and then Migliore olive oil down on Sherman. So yeah, that's where you can find our bread until the farmers market starts. And then as far as connecting with us, we have an email list where people will, you know, if they haven't seen the loaf that they like in a while, you know, they'll send us a message and ask for one of those to be, you know, delivered at Doma or one of those places. And then yeah, just other social media, Instagram, stuff like that. And yeah, we're working on a website, but not quite there yet.
No, I get it, right? All the things. You're like, wait, we're making bread, and now we have to like figure out all the other things. Like, oh,
It's all part of it.
So will you be at all of those places during the summer as well, like at Culinary Stone, or will you still be delivering to those throughout the week, or is during farmers market season you're specifically at the farmers market?
We will be at Doma. We've actually been at Doma since the first couple of months, I think, of when we first started. So
yeah,
we've been there. We've had bread there Wednesday mornings. I think for
all 3 years.
Yeah.
They've been very supportive.
Yeah, and then I believe Culinary Stone will still be doing that. I think Migliore might be taking a break once the markets start, just because the markets are
right down the street.
Yeah, it's right outside of where she is. So, but yes, I believe those will still be in addition to the farmers markets and everything, of course.
How exciting. So I like to end, I'll let you go really quick. Sorry, Jamie. But so I like to end with just 2 or 3 people, businesses, whatever, that inspire you locally to live holistically, vibrantly, just kind of your best lives.
That's such a tough question, because I feel like truly it's a great question. There's so many businesses here that are inspiring, right? Like, I feel like we could spend a long time talking through. I would say, I think like there's certain businesses that we've seen them kind of grow from the farmers market model into a brick and mortar. So that's really inspiring to me. Like, looking at Bean and Pie, is an example that comes to mind. Mountain Madness. They've really, been able to do some incredible things. Lone Mountain Farms, which is a brewery out in Athol, and just being able to do that, I think, has been very inspiring, because it shows like you can progress to not only support the farmers markets, but also be able to potentially have, your own kind of storefront, which I think is really exciting. And then, outside of that, it's just people in the community doing really cool things. Like, when we first moved here, or not moved here, when we first visited here, we would always, when we come over from Seattle, seeing Matt's parents, we would be like, oh, we have to go to Syringa, or we have to go to Bluebird, because I think, what Bill, Joe, and Autumn have done, just in terms, the food is delicious, the offerings are so unique and amazing, but also like just the style, the ambience, like down to like the cutlery, like it's just the details, right? So I think that's very inspiring. All right, I think that was more than 3.
No, that was fabulous. I loved it all. Yeah. Yeah, no,
no, for sure. I think I heard you mention Lone Mountain Farms too. Just getting started. I think it was very cool for us too when we first moved here. All the people that we met that were kind of either around the same timeline as us, maybe had started the year before us, or started the year after us, or there was definitely a community of businesses that were established that lend us a helping hand and give us advice and introduce us to the people that we should be meeting. But there was also people that were kind of like in the trenches with us, and there was a lot of that shared knowledge of like, hey, even some of the people that the pie shop, we both buy flour, and so we're sharing information of like, hey, did you talk to this guy? Yeah, Bean and Pie. And
Coffee Revival, I feel like, has been amazing, and just seeing how they reach out to the community. Lucid Roots too, just the way that she's been able to grow her business and expand into Spokane, and just these incredible flavors and just unique offerings, like
and all doing kind of all having the same kind of mindset of taking the time and doing it right, and kind of offering something unique to the community here, and
thoughtfulness behind it.
Yeah, the thoughtfulness, that's a great way of putting it, is taking the time to do things a certain way. I think it's cool, and I think it's, I don't know,
inspiring.
It's definitely inspiring.
Well, you guys are so inspiring. Like, I think you do it so well, and it's just so professional and delicious, and your team is so lovely, like so lovely.
Great.
I am just so excited for you, and I'm also really benefit from your product as well too. Like, who doesn't love a lovely loaf of bread? I actually, was kind of funny, I was going to tell you that my little boy, he teethed on it for a while, like your crusty, like he would just like gnaw on it, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure
that's good parenting advice, because we're just getting into that teething stage, and so
get rid of all the
take any and all tips.
Your own bread is perfect
and economical.
I remember.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, no, so, well, thank you. Do you have any final thoughts or questions that I forgot to ask you?
I don't think so. We really appreciate this, and checking out your other episodes and stuff too. I think this is very cool, and there's a lot of it's just another way of highlighting all of the amazing stuff that all the amazing people that are doing cool stuff in our community. It's very connecting and very cool to see.
Well, and it's so fun to hear your stories, right? I think that knowing the stories behind I mean, we see so many great products, but like knowing that story and what makes
Oh,
people pick and what keeps
Sure.
people going, just,
Yeah.
I feel like for me has like connected our humanity. And I think especially last year, I needed that, which is probably why I'm like, I have to start this. Like, let's.
It's true. It's so true. No, thank you. Thank you for having us, Gemma. This has been a lot of fun, and it really, I think, is the perfect way for us to launch into the busy season, because just talking about not just what we do, but why we do it is, it's great to kind of just like take a step back and think about all these things, which I'm sure we haven't thought in a while. So it's the perfect way to kind of kick off a busy and fun summer.
No, good. And that was so fun. I got to meet the whole family. Yay.
Jamie was talking. Lucy was barking.
No, it was great.
That's how we do it.
See you here soon. I mean, the farmers market starts it's in early May, right? The first
Mother's Day weekend. Yep.
Yep.
So, and then the
And
Wednesday,
then the Wednesday, it starts that following Wednesday there. So
yeah, coming up so fast.
starts off with a bang. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.